Last night I spoke to the Republican Club at USC, University of Southern California. Thank you all for inviting me. It was amazing. Very, mamma mia, hola, interesting. Si, senor. And there was a little lightweight staging where the children of the lie came in, and they sat there. And when I started to express and talk about Louis Farrakhan and how evil those people are, they staged a walkout. Some of those kids did. They jumped up and ran like rats. I thought it was a bunch of rats. And it was interesting. Good questions, so good feedback. The one thing I already know, but yet it was confirmed again last night, the one thing that holds the people of good back is fear. They have fear. When you have fear, you have no idea how much your life is being held back. The inner life is being held back with fear. You are not created to have fear. And the children of the lie will destroy you as long as you have that fear. We talked about that last night. So thank you, Republican Club down at USC, for having me there. It was great. Had a hootenanny of a time. Thank you so much. So we're going to enjoy it. We're going to run the liberals away and dare them to ever come back again. And I'm going to tell you how. First, I want to say at one point in my life, I was a Democrat. And up until the last 29 years, I was a Democrat. And the reason I was a Democrat is because that's all I knew at the time. You know, I was told that the Democratic Party was the party of black people and that they cared about black Americans. And at the time, I had not bothered to check out the platform myself to see what it was all about. And I was calling myself a Christian at the time as well. And so one day, 29 years ago, I was able to overcome my anger. And once I overcame my anger, my values changed. And so I went for the first time and I read about the Democratic platform. And I noticed that it was anti-God, anti-family, anti-country, weak military. They didn't support the unborn children. They believed in abortion. And I was stunned to find out that that's what the platform was all about. And so I went and checked out the Republican platform because I didn't know anything about the Republican Party. I had been told that the Republican Party is a party of white men, racist men that wanted to put black people back in slavery. And so I didn't know anything about them. And I went and read about the platform, and it was for country, freedom, Constitution, and just everything that I wanted to be about. And so I became a Republican about 29 years ago. And I do want to tell you that it is easier to be a member of the KKK party as a black man than it is to be a Republican. Because the black people have been told that the Republican Party is the enemy of the black community. So when I became a Republican, my family members, brothers and sisters, fathers and mother, my father, my mother, and others thought I had lost my mind. They really could not understand how in the world can you be a Republican. And so whenever we had family dinners and family reunions and things, I would have a hootenanny of a time because they are so angry. All you have to do is say one thing and they go nuts, right? And so I just kind of sit back and watch them go crazy. I started Bond after I became a Republican because I realized that black Americans, not all, but most, are suffering not because of racism, but the destruction of the family and the lack of moral character. I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama. I grew up under the Jim Crow laws. And while growing up there, we were told that the Jim Crow laws are bad for black people, for all people really, but all white people were not bad. It was just the law, and it was created by the Democratic Party. It wasn't even Republicans who started the whole Jim Crow thing. And we were told that not all white people were bad, not all black people were bad. There's good and bad in all people. But when I moved to LA at the age of 18, I started listening to Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan, Al Sharpton and others, and they were saying that it was about racism. While growing up on the plantation, I never heard the word racism. It was either right or wrong, good or evil. And so this word came about once the so-called civil rights movement started, And they brought up that word because they wanted to divide and conquer for themselves. So when I moved to LA, I started to hear about racism from Louis Farrakhan and others. Have you heard Louis Farrakhan before? Oh, good. Who don't know who Louis Farrakhan is? Okay. He is the head of the Muslims here in the USA. And Louis Farrakhan believed that white people, where are they going? Come back! Come back! No. Louis Farrakhan believed that he used to teach that black people were the first on earth, and that the black people were the smartest. And what happened was that a couple black men turned evil, and they went into a laboratory and they created the white man, and that's how we ended up with the blue-eyed devil. Isn't that amazing? That's how you guys got here. You didn't know that, right? And because black people were so angry, they believed that lie. And Louis Farrakhan been able to get away with that. So he was teaching that, and Jesse Jackson was talking about racism. And being in my late teens and early 20s, I started to believe in that lie too. And as you know, when you believe, whatever you believe in controls you. If you believe a lie, you're controlled by the lie. If you believe the truth, you're controlled by that truth. But I started to believe the lie that my issue was racism, because I thought those people were telling the truth. And I fell into that anger. And when you fall into that, you're controlled by whomever caused you to believe into the lie. And so, I started to hate white people for the first time in my life when I moved to LA. And the worst thing that you can have in your life is anger, is hatred, is racism. So my life went to hell in a handbasket. And then after a while, I started to ask questions. If white people are holding me back, why is it that they're not holding back Louis Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, and their families? They're going to great schools. They have the best jobs. And they're not suffering. And that's when I realized that I had been lied to. And so I dropped my anger, and that's when I woke up and I became a Republican. From that, I started an organization called BOND, the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. And our purpose is to rebuild the family by rebuilding the man. Because I want to bring back that order of God. There's a spiritual order to life, and that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children. It's not about racism at all. And I have proven that there is no such thing as racism. The word racism is a made-up lie. It's made up by the children of the lie. The liberal media, the Democratic Party, the never-Trumpers, the weak Republicans, right-o Republicans. They made that up in order to divide and conquer. And that's why we have not been able to resolve the problems, because we have believed into a lie that our problem is a spiritual problem, that it's about your color, it's about male or female, and it's not. It's either right or wrong, good or evil. So I started BOND in order to tell black people that it's not about your color, it's about the destruction of the family and the lack of moral character. And so we've been around 28 years now this past February. And when I started BOND, I started a radio show in Inglewood, California. I figured if I do a show there, because I wanted to get the message out to black people, it's not about your color. You have to start doing the right thing, treating people the way you would like to be treated. Get rid of your leaders, because it's abnormal to have someone lead you as an adult. So I go on this radio show in Inglewood, California, and I start saying what I'm telling you now, that Jesse Jackson and others are race hustlers. And at this time, I thought it was going to be good news that the black people would be happy to hear, right? And so I go on the radio, I said, you got to get rid of your leaders, start thinking for yourself. The Republican Party is not a racist party. It's the Democrats who want to keep you on the plantation. That's why they give you free stuff. That's why they tell you that black people, white people are trying to control you. It's all lies. And so the phone lights up. I give out the number. The phone lights up, and I'm all happy, thinking, "Wow, the people are gonna love this." And instead, they were calling me an Uncle Tom. They called me a nigger. They called me sellout. You ever been called nigger? No. I have been called nigger so many times over the last 29 years. I was thinking about changing my middle name from Jesse Lee Peterson to Jesse Nigger Peterson, right? But they were threatening the manager. They threatened to kill his family. They were going to blow up the child. And so the manager is a white guy, so he really liked me. He wanted me there, but he couldn't take it anymore, so they had me banned from that particular station. But the beauty is, the Los Angeles Times heard about it, and they started following me around to different schools because I was doing a lot of work in the schools. I was telling the kids, it's not about your color, it's about character. And so this reporter started following me around. And I was speaking to one class one day, and some of the kids asked me, what did I think about homosexuality? And because they brought in some homosexual guy to talk about it, they were encouraging it as being good. And I said to the kids that it's wrong, it's not right, it's not good. Don't accept it, don't hate them, but don't accept it as good. And when I told them that, the teacher got angry and she threw me out of the classroom. She said, you gotta leave, you can never come back here again. And she didn't know the reporter that was with me was a LA Times reporter. And so he was there, he wrote about the story and put it in the Times. And from that, I got an interview on Phil Donahue, he had a show at the time, Geraldo, and one thing just led to another one. And it's just been that way for the last 28 years now. But what I've noticed is that when you're not afraid of the liberals, I've had guns drawn on me, my telephone's been tapped, my kid's life's been threatened, I've been called every name in the book, but I don't have the fear. I love my country. I'm not an African American. I always tell them I'm not an African American. I am an American. I don't have an afro. I have an Amerifro. There are no African drums beating in my chest. The American guitar is playing in my heart. Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American. And I've come to realize that if you don't fear the children of the lie, they have no power at all. They have none. If they can intimidate you by calling you a racist or Uncle Tom or sellout, they have nothing. So I want to encourage you to overcome that fear. Let them call you whatever they want, but speak up anyway. Look how they're treating Kanye West right now. When he was one of them, they loved him. He was the man. And I remember Kanye West said that George Bush did not love black people because he claimed that George took a long time to go down to Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina. Well, they loved him when he said that about Bush. But now that he's supporting the Great White Hope, who is President Trump, all of a sudden he's a bad guy. And the reason that they are attacking Kanye West, as Maxine Waters said, that Kanye West needs to be quiet, he needs to shut up, because he doesn't understand that he is influencing black people. And the worst thing that can happen to the Democratic Party is that black Americans should wake up. Because if black folks wake up and start thinking for themselves, they're going to see that the Democratic Party is not a party for black people. They only give you free stuff to keep you down. And so they want to stop him because he is influencing black Americans. He's causing many of them to start thinking for themselves. And they don't want you to leave the Democratic plantation. Because most blacks, for Barack Obama. Oh, by the way, I got to tell you, I call Maxine Waters the Wicked Witch of the West with a low IQ because she's an evil, dirty woman. I remember she was speaking at Crenshaw Christian Center in Southeast LA. And she said to black people that the Republican Party want to put you back on the Republican Party want to tear down the projects. And she named all the projects around the area. And she said, not only am I not going to allow them to tear down the projects, but I'm going to build more for you. I'm going to build some new ones. And the black people were, oh, hallelujah, thank you, Lord, praise Jesus. Oh, are you people nuts? This woman is living in a $4.3 million home, right, in the suburbs, while she's offering black people the projects. And that's what they don't want black people to become aware of. Kanye West pointed out, even President Trump said, why not give me a chance? The Democratic Party has not done anything for you. So why not give me a chance? They don't want black Americans to wake up, and they don't care about black people either. They just need them for the votes. And that's why during the election time, they go around to their churches and they cry racism. They say, I don't feel no ways tired. I feel like going on Hillary Clinton, crooked Hillary. They don't care about blacks. And the way that black people ended up this way is about 60 years or so. the Democratic Party under Lyndon B. Johnson came along, and they said to black people, we're going to help you out. We're going to take care of you, but you can't have a man in the home. We're going to give you free welfare. We're going to feed you, house you, just take care of you. But you got to get rid of the man. So they got rid of the men. The black people, the men left, and the Democratic Party became the daddy of the family. And it's just been downhill ever since. It's just because when you give people stuff free, they don't develop that thing inside of all of us that knows how to take care of oneself as you're growing up. You become dependent. And so black Americans, generation from generation, have been dependent on the Democratic Party because they give them free stuff. And that's all they do. And so that's why they have managed to keep them away. That is changing now under President Trump. Between 30 and 33%, I think, of black people now support President Trump. And that's a nightmare for the Democratic Party, because if they lose the black votes, the party is going to disappear. And that's why they're trying to bring in all these illegal aliens, because they're bringing them in, not because they care about the illegals, but because of the votes. They want the votes, even if they vote illegally. The Democrats care about power and wealth. They don't care about the people at all. You know, they were crying that the president was dividing or separating the mothers and the children of the illegal aliens. And I'm thinking, well, if a mother who is a citizen of this country commit a crime and she has children, the kids are not going to jail with her. She's going to prison by herself. Why do they care more about the illegal aliens and their children than they do American children? They do not care at all. They just want power and wealth. And we saw this during the Judge Kavanaugh hearing. That was the nastiest, evil thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm glad that it was on display, because I believe that it influenced a lot of people. I know some of my friends who are Democrats, they have decided that they're not going to vote for the Democratic Party after that. After they saw how they were willing to destroy the judge, his wife, and his daughters, they realized that the Democratic Party does not care about people. They care about power and wealth. And I want to encourage you, especially as Republicans, do not be afraid of these people. They have no power at all. If they can't intimidate you, they cannot stop you. If we love what's right with all our heart, soul, and might, and do the right thing, we can defeat them. We see one man, the president, defeating them. When he first announced that he was running, the attack started. But he so far has survived everything because he does not have fear. Do not be afraid of these people. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is an evil organization. An organization that was founded by black lesbians and black homosexuals and radical white social justice warriors. And Black Lives Matter is worse than the KKK. They're just nasty, evil people. I've interviewed members of that group, and they can't take the heat. They hang up or they run away from the show because they have no power. If they can't intimidate you with fear, they have nothing. They are worse than the KKK. They were chanting, what do we want? Dead cops, when do we want it? Now. Pigs in the blanket, fry them like bacon. And what happens? Rather than Barack Obama repudiating them or getting rid of them, he invited them to the White House more than once. And by the way, Obama is the worst president we ever had. The fallen Messiah. I call him the fallen Messiah because black people thought that he was sent by God, and they thought that he was going to do good by them. 8 years, he did nothing for them. Now they realize that he's not from God, but straight out of hell. And so they're thinking about him too. They're rethinking. Chicago's situation got worse rather than getting better. The black-on-black crime went out of control under Barack Obama. It's about character and not about color. This is a good time for Republicans, a good time for conservatives. You got to stand up and fight back. We got to prevent the Democrats from getting in come November, because if they get back in, it's over. What Obama tried to do in 8 years will be completed by the Democrats if we should let them in. So I want to encourage you to be of courage, to tell the truth. When they get in your face and call you racism or sexism or homophobism or Islamophobism or whatever they do, there's no such thing as that. It's either right or wrong. And if you don't give it to them, they'll disappear. So let them call you whatever they want, but don't be afraid. And that's what we were doing at Bond. We were showing these young men, all men, how to have courage. Any man that has fear is a beta male. Do we have any guys who have fear? Oh, you're not going to say it. One guy admitted. And why do you have fear? Do we have a mic for him? Okay. And why? And what are you afraid of?
Speaking public.
Oh, you are? And why?
I say a lot of dumb things.
Oh, you do? Come up here for a minute. Can you come up? Beta male. You don't want to be known as a beta male, right? You know what a beta male is?
Yes.
And what is a beta male?
Someone who lacks assertiveness.
Like what?
Lacks assertiveness.
And you lack that, right?
Sure, yeah.
Women hate beta males.
Yeah.
So do you want to overcome that?
Sure, yeah.
You do? You want to be an alpha male, right?
Alpha, yeah.
Yeah. Let me tell you how to overcome that. Because you have anger, right? Do you have anger?
Sure, yeah.
Every man that has anger is a woman.
Nice.
So you have to drop your anger. You have to forgive your father and mother. And when you forgive them, God will forgive you. He'll take that away from you, and you'll have nothing but courage. You have to forgive them. That make sense?
Yes.
And I'm telling you, once you go and forgive, you have no fear, because everyone who has anger has fear. But if you forgive your parents for failing you, they did the best that they can do, then you can stand up. Are you a Republican?
I'm not registered.
You're not registered? But once you do, were you registered as a Republican?
Well, I'm registered independent, so no. So
Why is that? Why independent?
I'd rather not to be blinded by political labels.
But independent is a label.
No, it doesn't. No, it's not. Independent means that you're willing to hear both sides. I mean, I think that it's bad when you start making decisions only because you're affiliated with one party or another.
Would you ever vote for the Democratic Party?
Yeah, I could see myself voting for it. Yeah.
Really? What could cause you to vote for them?
For instance, if all of a sudden we see a massive role reversal in what it means to be a Republican, I would definitely vote for a Democrat purely on the basis that what it means to be a Republican is no longer the beliefs that I have.
What does it mean to be a Republican now?
To have values that prioritize individual liberties over the collective, and stress individual autonomy.
And how is that different than being an independent?
It's not.
So you should be a Republican. Am I right?
I don't think I should be a Republican because, again, I think that as an independent, we should be considering every single point of view, regardless of what label is associated with it. If I was a registered Republican, I would sell the same exact values. But if all of a sudden what it means to be a Republican changes, my values are going to be the same, so I'd rather not be affiliated with that.
But with good men and women in the Republican Party, strong men and women, it's not going to change. It just get better.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, you did well. You spoke up. You lost your fear.
Yes, I'm an alpha, right?
That's right. You have any questions for me?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, sure, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said that you don't think racism exists at all, right?
Right.
So, to me, the very existence of a KKK proves that there is racism in America, i.e. there are racist individuals in this nation.
No, that doesn't prove that. How does that prove that?
If there are racists, there's therefore racism.
Well, no. It's either,
By definition.
you have people who have love in their hearts, and you have those who have anger, and anger is evil. And when the KKK first started, it wasn't about race at all. The KKK came about because the Republican Party was founded by blacks and whites. At the time, blacks were not allowed to be a part of the Democratic Party, and so they started the Republican Party. And when the Republican Party was founded, there were black congressmen and senators and others, and the party was really going strong. And so the KKK started in order to stop the Republican Party from existing. And that's what the original thing was about. But they became angry somewhere down the line
Was it angry? You mean racist when you say angry?
No, they started judging them, started hating them because they were growing strong in the Republican Party. When I was growing up, black people, for the most part, were Republicans rather than Democrats. That only changed during the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
Started hating. Are you a racist?
I don't think I'm racist.
Do you know any white racists?
No.
And so why do you believe that racism exists then?
Because I know that there are people in the KKK. There is an existing community of several thousand members of the KKK in the U.S.
You heard of the Black Panther Party, right?
Yeah, sure.
Are they racist? They hate white people.
Yeah, I would say they're racist.
You would say they're racist? No, it's just hatred. It's good or evil. If you look at human beings, you have good people of all color and races on one side of the fence, and you have bad people of all races and colors, male and female, on the other side. It's about this. It's about hating your fellow man. It has nothing to do with the color.
All right. Well, if we trace back the history of the KKK, I mean, in the U.S., the KKK, as far as I'm concerned, they exclusively lynched black people. In other words, if you were white, they would not lynch you. The fact that it only lynch you if you were black proves to me that there is racism.
No, that was because they hated black people.
They lynched more than just blacks.
Yeah, and you're right. It was more than just black.
Sure, maybe you're right, but if they hate black people, isn't that by definition racism? No. In other words, they're choosing one racial group and they're saying, I hate you because you're a member of that group.
No, that's judgment. That's hating.
That is racism.
Have you ever had a friend that you thought was a good person, and then once you became angry at that friend, it seemed like a different person? He didn't look the same, or you saw him in a different way?
I'll say yes for the sake of argument.
Well, that's what happened with the KKK. Once they start hating, you see things differently when you have anger. But it's not because of their skin color, it's a judgment they make about the people.
All right.
But, I mean, if you want to hold on to that, you believe that, but it's going to hold you back in life because they're going to control you with that, simply because you're a white guy.
All right, so just to be crystal clear, if there's someone who hates a specific group purely because of the color of their skin, they're not racists, they just hate it. But
they don't hate them because of the color of their skin. They made another judgment about them. They say that they're low lives, that they're dirty, that they judge them for something else, not simply because they're black.
Because they're black, they're judging them though.
No, they're judging them because they've judged a certain group of people.
Who happens to be black people.
Right. I mean, I can't convince you of that, but if you want to believe it, you're going to have to pay for that in the long run.
Sure. They're going to use that against you.
They're going to use it against you.
Yeah.
Who?
Yes.
Your enemies. The liberal Democratic Party. Any black person that wants to control you, that you disagree with, you can be friends with them until you disagree with them. They're going to call you racist, and you're going to lose out.
Sure, I'll pay the price.
You'll pay the price? All right. Okay. Thank you, man. All right. Let's take some more questions. And yes, sir. I think you have to come up to the mic here so I can see you. Okay.
What's up? I'm Jackie. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Jack. Nice to meet you, man.
So yeah, I was actually at the Turning Point conference. You know what that is, right? Turning Point?
I'm sorry?
Do you know Turning Point?
No.
Yeah, it's just basically these. What's Turning Point again, Sahil?
Turning Point USA, Jesse. It's the Charlie Kirk. It's the foundation for conservatives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right. I was at that conference. And do you know who Daniel Prager is? Dennis Prager.
I know Dennis very well.
Yeah, Dennis
He's
Prager.
a good friend.
Yeah, so he's a good friend. That's
Yeah.
cool. So halfway through his speech, he basically had a Q&A session. I asked him, I was like, I'm sure you're a gentleman, right?
A what?
You're a gentleman.
A gentleman? I
Yeah,
think
you,
a
you,
little
pull,
bit.
you pull a chair back for a girl. You like
Yes.
open the door for them, like a traditional feminist, right?
Yes.
So my question for him was that I feel like a lot of the time, when you talk about beta males, I feel like a lot
Are
of the
you a
time.
beta or alpha?
No, I'm an alpha male.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but I feel like a lot of the time there's a lot of these beta males who pose as feminists in order to get laid, and I think it's a very toxic.
So true.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think it's a very toxic mentality. Like they don't actually have respect for them, and they try to pose as like it's criminal what they do.
Yeah.
And I asked Prager this question, and he had no idea what I was talking about, which is why I felt a little like nice when you were like, yeah, beta males and stuff. He was on stage. He was like, beta male? What does that mean? right? And I was just like, yeah. So my question for you is, these people with this toxic mentality that they want to pose as feminists in order to get laid, like what do you think of that mentality, and why do you think? I mean, it's pretty obvious why they do that, but I mean, I guess what kind of solution do you have for that, and how do you think you can convince these people to not do that, and like what's like some type of solution? Joe Rogan, for example, said that. You listen to Joe Rogan?
Yes, I know who he is.
Joe Rogan said that the solution is prostitution, which I think is kind of absurd. Like if prostitution was legal, you'd have a conversation with some girl and she'd like have some ridiculous feminist belief, and she'll be like, hey, like if you don't agree with me, then I won't have sex with you, and you'll be like, oh no. But then if you disagree with them, you just be like, oh, like what? Like, I'll just go fuck a prostitute then. You know where I'm coming from? So that's his solution. Like, what do you think is your solution to solve this problem?
So what is the solution to solving the problem?
To solve the criminal toxic mentality of posing as feminists in order to get laid, and actually contributing to this vicious cycle of hatred that goes on within society.
Well, it's definitely a problem with the way that these weak guys use the girls, but the only way that that's going to end is that the girl's going to have to say no to it. Just tell them, I don't want to be with a weak guy. Because anytime a guy want to have sex with a girl before marriage, it's not that he cares about her at all. He's just using her for his own personal pleasure. And that's not going to change unless the woman says no to it. She has to draw a line where she says, no, I'm not going to do it. And then call it out. Let the guy know you're a beta male, and I don't sleep with beta males. And then guys like you have to correct them too. Make them see that they're wrong. And sometimes when you tell people the truth, they'll see that they're wrong, then they'll start to change. But until the girls take control, it's not going to happen, for the most part.
How about like certain laws and stuff like that? I'm not saying prostitution, but like certain stuff that we can take measures to like, just things you think in general we could do to like make this type of stuff stop.
Well, the laws are not going to make them stop. You have to develop self-control. And most guys are very insecure because, they're failing of their parents. They don't have that security within them that a man should have. And so unless you change the hearts and minds of these people, the laws won't stop that. Some people will be arrested, but the others will do it. You have to have self-control, and that's what most people are missing today, and especially young beta males. They're out of control. They think that sex is love, but sex is not love. Sex is sex. And to the ladies, when a guy says, I love you, and then he asks for sex, he's just lying to you. He does not love you. He's going to screw you, and then go screw someone else. But if he can wait until marriage, he can date you and get to know you and you know him, then that's a man that will make a good husband or a woman that will make a good wife. But any guy that has sex with you before marriage is going to cheat on you afterward because he's out of control. He has no self-control. Sex is not love. And you should wait until marriage before you have sex. The moment you have sex while dating, you lose sight of the person that you're dating. You become emotional, you become needy, you become jealousy, and it just creates other problems. It's best to wait until you get married before you have sex. And that way you know who you're marrying, and that way your marriage will last until death do you part. But if you do that before marriage, it's not going to work.
Did you wait?
I did not wait. But I taught my children, because no one had told me I should wait. It was a horrible mistake to do it beforehand. And then you end up, in some cases, making children out of wedlock. I was a beta male at one point, so that's why I didn't wait, right? But now I know, and I've been teaching other guys to wait, and young ladies to wait. And those who are waiting, they're dating, and they're having good relationships because it's not based on emotions. It's based on this person and that person get to know each other. It's best to wait. Are you going to wait?
I'm not sure. I got to think about it.
And what is there to think about? Do you know sex? Come back over.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Do you know sex is not love?
I mean, yeah, I guess, in your definition, yeah.
Do you believe that it is love?
I mean, like if I'm in love with someone, yeah.
If you're in love with them, you believe that sex is love?
Oh, right. The act itself, it's just like, fooling around is like kind of nice and stuff, but like you can still be in love with someone, you know what I mean?
Right, but real love is to love them for who they are, the person,
Yeah.
and not the sex.
And that makes it
Because
feel
the
better.
sex grow old after a while. There's a period, sex is always exciting, right? And then after a while, especially for guys, they're looking for a new excitement. It's the same way that the drug addict look for drugs.
But where I would disagree is that, like, I mean, when you kiss someone, you release oxytocin, and you release these different kind of chemicals. You become addicted to someone else's chemicals, and as a result, you become more comfortable with them fooling around and stuff. And that's why a lot of the times when people go through breakups, like, they get incredibly depressed. It's not just about the fact that they're not with them. It's also about the fact that they're missing that chemical that they're not having. You know what I mean?
But if they didn't kiss and have sex, then if they broke up, they wouldn't have those feelings. That wouldn't happen.
Yeah. No, I
they
can
can
see
walk
where you're
away
coming from.
without feeling that way.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what's up. Yeah.
Yeah, so invest away.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
No, not really.
All right. Anybody else? Yes.
You want me to come up, or can I
Yeah.
stay here?
Oh, you can stay there if you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is, how can you engage in productive political discourse with people who think that you can't have an opinion because you're white? And particularly, I guess I also want to ask, and I don't know if you can speak to this, but being Republican right now, like, that's hard. Being a conservative is really hard, especially on a college campus. But then being a woman who's a conservative is also even harder, I
Yeah.
think. So if you can speak to that.
The way you do it is don't be angry. Have no anger, right? And when you're speaking the truth, when you're debating a liberal or Democrat or whomever it might be, you just tell the truth. And when you tell the truth and they start screaming and yelling and carrying on, you just look at them like you're looking at a movie, a crazy person in a movie, right? And don't overreact to them. Because the reason they're acting out is that they want to get a reaction from you. And the moment they get you to overreact, then they have control over you. But just always tell the truth and never overreact to them, and you will win every debate. And when they're losing, they're going to call you a racist. You're just saying this because you're a racist. Or whatever they say, just look at them, whatever, Let them call you whatever they want. Don't take it personally, and you will win every debate. But the moment you become angry at them, in that very moment, you lose. If you notice, pay attention. The only way they control you is by name calling or putting fear in you to get control over you. Over the last 28 years, 29 years, however long I've been doing this, every intellectual Republican, it doesn't matter, Democrat or liberal, it doesn't matter how many degrees they have, it doesn't matter if they're male or female, I have won all of my debates. Even when they put 4 or 5 people up against me, because I don't take it personally with the name calling. If they threaten me, no big deal. If they call me an Uncle Tom, a sellout, a coon, or whatever, it's no big deal. I even have the Coon Award. You ever won a Coon Award? To me, that's so funny. It's nice to win the Coon Award because they're losing. And so don't take it personal when they call you names because they're only trying to control you. They do not have the truth on your side, on their side. That makes sense? I want you to give that a try. Tomorrow at school, try it, test it. Go out and challenge a Black Lives Matter person on campus and just say, hey, Obama is weak and pathetic. Or there's no such thing as police brutality. And they was like, yeah, you're just saying that because you're white privilege, right? And you say, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you this because it's true. And they will have a fit and you'll win the debate. You gotta stay calm and don't take it personally. And that's in every area of your life, and you will always, always, always win. Look at the president. Look what this man has gone through already, and if you notice, he doesn't take it personally. They call him a rapist, he hate women, they say, he hate blacks, they call him racist. He doesn't care. He's putting the country first, and he's getting the job done. And I promise you, if you don't overreact to them, be honest and straight up, you will always win. You can't lose. Let them call you whatever they want. You know who you are. You know you're not a racist. You know you don't have white privilege. That doesn't exist. They're only trying to control you. So don't take it personally. All right? Give that a try. Any other questions? Come down here so I can see you a little bit. You don't have to come up here if you don't want to, just down front. Right behind you, yeah.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, buddy.
Hello. Cool. So it seems like to me you're using a lot of rhetorical tricks to try to explain away things that do in fact exist.
Like what, for example?
Like your explanation of racism. You just said that there's no police brutality.
Right.
And that technique, to me, it resembles very similarly the way like postmodernists try to just say that there's infinite interpretations of things. In other words, you're not addressing real issues. You're just trying to like use language to obscure facts. To me, when you talk about those kinds of things.
Do you believe that there is police brutality?
Yeah, I know there's police brutality.
And where's
sometimes.
the proof of that?
Well, look at the footage from the Rodney King tape. Look at the way that...
Let's talk about the Rodney King. What happened with the Rodney King incident that made you believe that there is police brutality?
Because I don't think his actions justified being beat relentlessly in the street.
And what was his action? What were his actions?
I think he was speeding, right?
And what else?
They found drugs in his car, I believe.
And what else?
I think that was it.
First of all, he was a big black guy, right?
So?
He was on speed, whatever he was taking. They tried to stop him. He took off in his car, would not stop, putting everybody else's lives at risk. And then when they finally got him to stop, he still wouldn't, let him handcuff. He fought and carried on. So they had to do what they had to do to handcuff this man who was on drugs, driving fast on the freeway, putting everybody else's lives at risk. How is that police brutality?
Because the means that they used to restrain him were not equal to his actions. In other words, there were a lot of other ways that weren't as brutal that you can arrest someone or seduce someone. And they decided to beat him within inches of his life.
This guy's a big guy on drugs. He's stronger than they are.
Yeah.
He wouldn't, lay down and stop and put his hand behind his back. What else you want them to do?
I don't think
oh baby, can you stop, please?
I don't think it takes.
We want to handcuff you.
I don't think it takes 6 policemen with batons beating a guy within inches of his life to subdue someone. I just don't see how you can justify that. And there are white people who are subject to police brutality too. It's not like a race thing. I mean, there is a racial aspect to it, but I just don't understand why you feel the need to deny things just because they don't happen to you individually. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I've been stopped by police. I remember once I was on my way to work, and I got stopped by 2 cops, a woman and a male. Both were white.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. This was years ago. I had no idea what was going on, and so I get out of the car, and they're like, put your hands up. And I look around, this woman has this gun right arming me, and she was shaking, right? And at that time, I had this anger toward white people. Right away in my mind, I started thinking, this is racism. They're doing this because I'm black.
Uh-huh.
When they really were not doing it because I'm black, they're doing it because they got to protect themselves too. They had no idea who I am, if I have a gun or not, what my actions would be. And whenever you don't follow their instructions, they're going to have to protect themselves. I don't know why you would believe that is racism.
I mean, there are some cases where lethal force is necessary and others where it's not.
I can't convince you that it doesn't exist, but I'm telling you, it's not about police brutality. When I was growing up, black people were not treated that way by police officers. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, black people, when they were stopped by cops, they would follow the instructions. And they didn't go through that kind of stuff. Only the ones who didn't follow the instructions when the cops asked them to stop. When black police officers stop black people, they have to beat them. You don't hear them cry racism then. Why not?
Do you deny that a police officer could potentially use a degree of physical force that is not necessary?
No, I don't deny that, because you can find good and evil in every organization. So there are bad cops and there are good cops.
Then what would you call that if not police brutality?
A bad cop.
That's just another word. They're using police brutality. That's what makes them a bad cop.
Why would you rather use police brutality rather than bad cop?
It's more specific to the event at hand.
But bad cop is not.
I mean, sure, you could say that too. I don't disagree with that. But I mean, you could also argue that a cop that isn't bad made a mistake and was brutal. They're still enacting police brutality and it's still a problem, whether you want to characterize them as a good or bad person.
That's amazing, man, that you want to believe that. I'm telling you, there's no such thing as police brutality. And what has happened over the years is that black people, generation, have been told by the race hustlers, like the so-called civil rights organization, the NAACP, the Congressional Black Caucus, and others, that white police, they always say white cops hate you because of your color. And so these kids grow up hearing that, even though they're wrong, when a cop stops them, automatically they're going to get a cop lip service. They're not going to follow instruction. And when you don't follow the order of the cop, you're bringing these situations upon yourself. And when a white cop does it, then the first thing they do is cry racism. And what do they get from that? Is power and wealth. They don't really care about the black person that's been beat up. They use that for their own personal gain. But if blacks were to follow those instructions, they wouldn't have any problem, for the most part, from the police officers.
I do agree that police events are politicized unnecessarily sometimes, but that doesn't mean that police brutality doesn't exist or couldn't happen.
Is it only happening to blacks or others too?
I think it happens to others as well.
But why don't we hear other people crying police brutality?
You do if you research it.
I don't hear it. I'm sure if it happens, most of the time it comes from black people. Anybody hear from other races?
I'm not black.
So just two
It's
people?
obvious.
How come only two people hear it? What other races do you hear crying racism, for the most part?
Crying racism?
I mean, crying police brutality.
I think I see instances, there have been instances of police brutality against people of other races.
Like what races?
Like white, for instance.
White?
Yeah.
But you don't hear about it.
Yeah, it might not be politicized as much, but
Right.
that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Why do you think when it happened with blacks, everybody and their mama knows about it?
Because it's a hot button political issue.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that police brutality doesn't exist.
But if they were not going to benefit from it, you wouldn't hear about it.
Okay, I'd like to
If
move
there
on,
was a
because I don't think
serious
this is
issue,
going
then
anywhere.
you would hear about it even if it wasn't politicized. And why don't you think that they're not saying anything about the black on black crime? That's worse than so-called police brutality. They don't care about that at all.
I don't deny that that's a problem, but this still doesn't discount the potential for police
Anybody
brutality.
here disagree with him? Do you all agree with him about police brutality?
Feel free to disagree with him.
And why do you disagree with him?
I think when most people talk about police brutality, they talk about it like it's a normal thing and it happens a lot. And I think when you say it doesn't exist, what you mean is it's not happening on a wide enough scale that it's not just a bunch of bad cops. I think what you're saying is bad cops are brutal. He's trying to say that brutality is a thing that kind of pervades all police institutions, which it does not.
Right.
Well, I mean, the way you're speaking about it makes it sound like it's common or like it's not like a rare one-off case with a bad cop. And I think that's what Jesse's trying to say.
I mean, look what happened. Is it possible we can turn these lights up so I can see everybody? Or is it best to leave them down?
I never claimed it was common. I just said it. There are instances.
I'm sorry?
I never said it was common. I just said there are instances of it.
Look at the Michael Brown situation. Remember that situation?
Yeah.
Michael Brown was a thug. He tried to kill the cop. And when they cried police brutality, did you believe that that was police brutality?
Which one was Michael Brown again?
In
It was,
Ferguson, right?
Ferguson.
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many different details.
He was a
reported
big
about
old
the
black
event.
guy. You know what happened with him? And I write about him in my book, The Antidote. His father and mother were no good. His father and mother separated. His father went and got with another woman. Mother did what she did. And whenever his father tried to pick him up to hang out with him, the mother would not allow it to happen. She gave his father so much trouble that he had to eventually send someone else over to the grandmother's house or the mother's house to pick up Michael. And after a while, Michael went to live with his father, but his father's life was out of control. And Michael went to live with his grandmother. His grandmother couldn't do anything with him. So Michael Brown never had love. So he became a thug in the streets. And then he get killed by the cops. The cop defended himself. The first thing that the race hustlers do, they cry racism. And they had a funeral for Michael Brown that's named fit for a king. Rather than saying, this is a thug, this is what happened when you don't raise your children properly. Let this be an example of what not to be. They cried racism in order to gain power and wealth. And as soon as that incident was over, they moved over to someone else. Michael Brown, is it Brown out of Florida? Remember that guy?
Michael Brown, yeah, that's right.
Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin. Remember that guy? Another thug. Pot-smoking thug. They made him into a hero. It's not about police brutality. It's the lack of family and the lack of character. That's what black people had prior to the civil rights movement and prior to the government becoming the daddy and the leaders becoming the head. If black people, and not all, but most, if there were more people, you wouldn't see all this stuff happening. I promise you that.
Okay, last quick question. Do you think women should be allowed to vote? Because I know you've had different issues.
Oh, that's a good question. I think one of the mistakes that happened when they were allowed to vote, because women, not all, but most, especially those who have not been raised by their mothers, they're very emotional, and they vote based on what they think and feel, not what's right and best, right? And so what happened when we allow, especially the liberal women who hate men, they have gotten into power, and if you look at the type of laws that they bring in, it's not good for the family, it's not good for the country, they hate men, and we need, and the point that I was making is that just like we call the liberal men out for the bad laws that they bring in, that are against family or against the unborn child, we need to start dealing with these women who voted in these unjust laws as well.
I think it's totally fine to disagree with how a population votes, but to say that they shouldn't be able to vote is anti-American, frankly.
Well, it's not anti-America, it's dealing with the truth. Things got bad, when, especially the liberal and Democratic women. When they got in power, look what they just did to the judge. Those women in the Democratic Party, those feminists, was willing to kill the judge. They call him a racist. No, they call him a rapist with no proof at all, because they wanted the power. And so if we don't call that out because they're women, it's going to only get worse.
And therefore we should restrict voting rights?
No, we have to let them vote. I mean, we got it there now.
Good.
But I'm just saying, when they got in, because there were so many of them, that's what happened.
So you do support the 19th Amendment for...
They can vote.
Okay. Okay.
Well, let's get some conservative women in there, not liberal ones.
I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
I know you preach a lot about the family and family values, but with the current state of divorce courts and laws favoring women in almost every instance, why should a rational man pursue marriage or relationships at all?
That's a good question, man. In today's America, the man is the most hated species on this side of heaven. And especially the white, straight, conservative Christian man of power. Because the average black man today is not worth a dime. The average Hispanic man is not worth a dime. And the only one that's holding the country together right now are the white, straight, conservative Christian men. And so what I'm telling men to do is to not seek a woman, but to seek what's right first, become men, because there's a spiritual order to life, and that order is God in Christ. Christ is man, man over woman, and woman over children. And so if men become real men, love what's right, then the right woman would come into their lives, and that order would be there, and then those laws wouldn't affect you at all. So don't seek a woman, seek what's right. And likewise with women, don't seek a man. Be right, do right, and God will give you the wife that belongs to you. And that way you wouldn't have to worry about that. But if you get into that now, especially if you start having sex before time, you are subjecting yourself to those laws. But seek what's right first and not a woman.
So you think, like, do what you need to do and focus on yourself and don't worry about it?
That's right.
Okay.
And then eventually the right woman will be there, the one that's meant for you, and then you can start that relationship and you will have a marriage until death do you part.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, sir, I'm wondering, do you believe that racism does not exist now, or it has never existed anywhere in the world?
It has never, ever, ever existed. And the proof is, as I said, I grew up under the Jim Crow law. I worked the cotton fields and did all those things. And that word did not exist then. It was right or wrong, good or evil. And the blacks knew that there were good white folks and there were bad white folks. Good black people and bad black people. So we dealt with those type of people.
Okay, sir. Well, what racism is usually understood to meaning is discrimination based on a person's race. And to take it out of the United States for a minute, I hate to bring up the Nazis because I think it's a weak argument, but the Nazis did discriminate against the Jews and committed genocide against them based on their racial makeup, not on religion. So it's hard. I find it hard for you to defend that. And I'm conservative. I don't know anyone more conservative than me.
Right.
So, but
listen,
I find
okay.
it.
I understand that it's hard for most people to accept that racism does not exist, because you've heard that all your life. I believed at one time, once I moved to LA, believed into that. I believed that racism exists, but I didn't believe it growing up because I never heard of that before. But go ahead. The Nazis and the Jews.
Yes, well, how can you say that racism did not exist when the Jews were discriminated, in the polls, and Romanians were discriminated against based solely on their race? It didn't matter what else they believed.
But, and I understand, here are the Jews, right? And the Jews are doing what the Jews do.
Yeah.
And the other folks hated the Jews. They started to hate them. They became jealous of them. They became envious of them. And as a result, instead of overcoming them in the right way, they started to hate them. They didn't hate them because they were Jews, per se. They hated them because the way the Jews lived together, they were wealthy, they did their thing. And so the Nazis were envy of that. It's the same matter that most black people hate white folks today. And most black people hate white people not because they're white, but because they've been told that white people are keeping them down. They've been told that white people are better than them and white people are this and that. So they hate these group of people because they've judged them for an action or something in their lives and not because of their color.
I like a lot of things you say, but on that I profoundly disagree that racism...
I understand.
Okay, all right.
And you're not a racist, right?
No.
But the average black person would call you a racist.
Why?
Because you disagree with them. The moment you remember when Barack Obama was in the White House? White people were not allowed to disagree with Barack Obama about anything. Even Oprah said that the white people are just going to have, the old white people are going to have to die out before racism. And she would ask, well, why do you think white people disagree with Barack Obama? Because of racism. That wasn't true. They disagree because he's a liberal. He's a socialist. He's a pig. He's a commie. But white people were not allowed to say that because that's how you control white people.
Can I jump in?
Let me just finish that point. Go ahead.
Well, if African Americans do not like me because of, are you saying that they don't like me because I'm white or because that I'm a conservative?
They don't like you because they've been told all their life you're the bad guy.
Well, then they're judging me based on my skin color.
No, they're judging you based on a lie that's been told about you. Because if they had never heard this lie, right, and they saw you, they would see that you're white, but it wouldn't matter. They would judge you, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, based on your character.
Well, I'm not arguing why they might judge me on my skin color or why they might believe that I judge them on their skin color, but that they do it at all that it happens at all is proof positive that racism does exist.
No, they hate you because they believe that you're holding them back. White privilege.
But if you're believing that just because I'm white,
They believe that you have the power.
They're attributing whiteness to having power.
Right. But not because you are a white person. They believe that you have the power over them. You just happen to be white. I understand it. You've been told that for so many years. It's hard to believe that that's a lie. But it's a lie. Well, why didn't we hear that during the Jim Crow era?
Well, it's hard for me to believe that discrimination based on skin color has never existed.
Do you discriminate?
No.
You don't discriminate.
Against people's skin color, no. But I do just... Discriminate is
Come back with the mic just for a minute and I'll come to you. Let him have the mic. So do you discriminate?
You mean to judge and make decisions? Define discriminate for me, please.
Do you discriminate?
I suppose I've seen you do this. Will you ask this? Will you keep repeating the question? Yes, I do discriminate.
And is that wrong to discriminate?
No.
So if you discriminated against a black person, automatically you would be called racist. But you're doing what is natural to do. And the reason that they would call you racist is because they hate you. And the reason they hate you because they've been already told lies about you based on your color. And so they think you have control over them. But that's not who you are. You don't have control over anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But they've already judged you before they met you because of what they heard about you, just based on your color. But they do believe, no, they think that, but they also believe that they as black people cannot make it because you are holding them back. That because you're white, you have the power. And that's not true. They've already prejudged you.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse, can I come back to a second?
Let me take this young lady, then I'll come.
I think we're gonna. It's hard for you to say that they're judging me based on my skin color, but that's not racism. I think we're gonna go on circles for this for a long time.
For you. I understand. They're not judging you based on your skin color. They're judging you because they've been told you have the power over them.
But they believe that I have the power over them because what they believe about me based on my skin color, not because they've ever met me or know me.
No, they believe it because there's a whole bunch of other stuff goes into that. Slavery, they believe it, that this is something passed down through slavery and all that crap. And they think that white people have been controlling them ever since that time, maybe even further than that.
Okay, now I'm not sure I agree with you, but I'm starting to understand your point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that, man. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify something. I'm not here to debate you or anything.
Okay.
But something you said about the Democratic Party becoming the father figure and Lyndon B. Johnson and getting rid of black men in the household. Can you go into the history of that you're referring
That's
to?
a good
Because
question. During the civil rights movement, Lyndon B. Johnson got with the civil rights leader, Martin Luther King Jr. and others. And at the time, Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican and not a Democrat. But they agreed that they were going to work together. And Lyndon B. Johnson offered black people welfare programs and things like that. But he said one of the options is that, one of the rules is that you can't have a man in the home. And so for whatever reason, black people agreed to that. Okay. And Johnson said, well, the reason blacks can't make it because of racism, right? You've been discriminated against as racism. So we're going to help you by giving you free stuff. And so they decided, okay, they took the fathers out of the home and the government became the daddy of the family. And so they started giving the women and children money and food and houses and just everything. And it just got to the point where black women started to have babies just to stay on the welfare. And so they would have these children out of wedlock, and then their children would, end up on welfare. And just been going on that way from generation to generation to generation. Lyndon B. Johnson even said that we're going to give these, I'm not quoting him exactly all the words because I don't remember it exactly, but in essence he said, we're going to give these niggers this free stuff and we're going to control them for 200 years. And that's happening right now.
That's all. I just wanted to clarify. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. We have time for one last question. Actually, I saw you've been here for a while, so I'll let you go.
Well, thank you for coming, Mr. Peterson. I've been a follower of yours on YouTube for quite some time.
Thank
we
you.
may disagree on the social issues, but 10 times out of 10 we're going to agree on the policy issues, and that's where I want to stick with.
Yes.
I do distinguish between leftists and liberals today. Liberals are just sensible, rational people that I have policy disagreements with, whereas, as you've described, leftists as overly violent, sort of the extremist end of the spectrum. And in the same respect, I do tend to differentiate between traditional conservatives or conservatives in general and people I like to call the Trump cultists, people that tend to assume that the man can't do anything wrong. I'm a pretty young guy, but I'm old enough to remember when free trade was a conservative ideal, and now it's been blanketed, and then now tariffs are being blanketed under fair trade. Milton Friedman is turning over in his grave essentially, and you do speak to the positivity of Donald Trump and the benefits of him being the president, but can you also speak to some of the perhaps these negative qualities that conservatives are or conveniently brushing aside just because we like some of his other policy prescriptions?
Oh. Mm-hmm. The great white hope negative side. How much time we have? I think one mistake he's made is that he hasn't forced the Republicans and the Democrats to give him the money to already put the wall up. Because the wall should have gone up already. But he's working on that. Now, the president has he's done things before he changed, as we all have done. But in all honesty, and I wish I could think of something just to make you happy, but I can't think of anything negative about him since being president. You know, I don't know anything that he's done thus far. Can you think of one thing he's done wrong since being president?
Such as tariffs,
Not prior
for example.
to, I'm sorry?
Such as tariffs, for example.
What has he done wrong in that area?
Well, I would argue that every economist worth his or her salt, even traditionally conservative economists such as Milton Friedman, Frederick Hayek, and so forth, and even popular talk show hosts such as, what was his name? Anyway, I can't recall. Yeah, they consistently said that tariffs are generally bad for the economy, bad for the consumer.
But it's working though, it's working out.
I'm sorry?
It's going good for the country so far.
Well, at the expense of the consumer, in my opinion. At least that's what major economic literature has suggested. That when
I wouldn't pay attention to those people. They're dumb. You have to look for yourself and see what's going on. And so far, everything the president has done is making the country great again. There are more people working. Even black people are working.
Yeah.
Hispanics are working. Women are working. Folks are happier now. They're safer. He's put the country first. And so everything he's done thus far is working. So if what he's doing is working, why listen to losers who didn't make it work prior to the president?
I don't mean to ramble on, but there's one thing Donald Trump said. This was probably the best thing he said. It was during his candidacy, actually. He actually said that I can go on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone in the head, and I wouldn't lose any followers. And unfortunately, that's essentially what is currently happening in the conservative Republican Party. I'm a proud Republican, I'm a proud conservative, but...
Did you vote for the president?
I did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like the alternative, and the alternative in 2020 is unfortunately going to be worse if it's Pocahontas or Bernie Sanders. But at the same time, when I do see him enacting policies that are counterproductive at best, I do find the need to criticize him, where unfortunately the Alex Jones-esque type of conservatives don't. They sort of belong to the cult of Donald Trump, as I like to call it. The man can't do anything wrong.
For me, the president is so good, and for so long we've been having so bad with the rhino Republicans, the Democratic Party. The country was going to hell in a handbasket, and all of a sudden we get a man in there who is really making the country great. I'm just grateful because we were losing our country. The rhino were not doing anything because they have the same mentality as the Democrats have. And it's not until now that our country is being made great again. You know, I'm not gonna, whatever little mistakes he's making, that's fine with me. I just want my country back. And so forth, that's what's happening. He said the other day that he is a nationalist. Remember that? Are you a nationalist?
It depends how you define nationalism.
How do you define it?
If it's putting the people in the country first, then yes, I'm definitely a nationalist.
How many nationalists we have? Yes. Don't be afraid to be a nationalist. I'm a nationalist. Put your country first. That's common sense. And so when the children of the lie say, oh, you're a white supremacist, you put your, fine. If white supremacists mean I'm a nationalist and putting my country first, fine. And so you agree with him on that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't have any problem with the president at this point. I like the way he's dealing right now.
So the conservatives should, at the same time, keep an open mind. If he does do anything wrong, we should feel open to criticize
Absolutely.
him.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I tell them all the time on my show, always have a little space there between you and the president. Observe. And so if he does do something wrong, you can point it out. Hey, this is wrong. It doesn't matter if you're the president. It doesn't matter that you're the great white hope. This is still wrong. And that's how we should treat each other. If we're wrong, we're wrong. But when we're right, we have to stick together as well. So I agree with you on that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you have a question? No?
I did.
Oh, let me take this last one. He was just waiting for a long time.
So I totally agree with your whole not racism. It's kind of creating a group mentality, and I appreciate the individual thought. Yeah. But what would you consider the whole Harvard Asian discrimination case right now? Would you call that racism, or what would you call it?
I would call that evil and wrong. Because in this country, if you work hard, you earn your way, you're supposed to get what you work for, right? But this whole affirmative action thing based on color is wrong. And black people should not want that, because what it's saying is that you don't have to work as hard. You're a dummy. You can't earn your way. So what we're going to do is take from the hard-working people and give it to you based on color. And so the world going to know, well, these black people, they can't make it, they're dumb. And to discriminate against whites and Asian and others who are putting in the effort is pure evil and pure wrong. And I think blacks should not want that, but because they've been so screwed up morally, they have no shame about it at all. No, I don't agree with that at all. I wouldn't want when I go to, I spoke at one is Harvard or somewhere, right? And so all these blacks came around, and so I would ask them, are you here because you earned it or because you're black? And they were like, oh, I earned it. I don't believe that. I believe you're here because you're black. And like, no, I earned it. So don't you see how unfair? Because for those blacks who are working hard and earning their way, how would you tell? Because you know that they're getting there because of affirmative action. We need to end that, period. And I'm glad that the Asians are suing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's unfair. I really enjoyed this. And here's what I want to encourage you to do to overcome anger. Because whenever you have anger, you have fear. And this fear that make a home in you will control you, all right? But if you speak up but don't resent, you cannot be controlled by anyone or anything. And the children of the lie, they know how to manipulate you and control you. And they do it simply by calling you names. And then they'll put up examples. If a white person disagrees or does something they don't like, they'll put him in front of you and they'll destroy him. And they're doing that to put fear in you. But they literally have no power over you. Let them call you whatever they want. Fight back. Don't be afraid. If they throw you out of school for standing up, well, fight the issue. Don't walk away from it. Take it to court. Do whatever you need to do to fight back. And when they see that you're going to fight back, this will start to end. We have to fight back and not, be afraid, all right? The worst thing that you can have in your life is fear. Because you bring out the worst in your enemy and they will destroy you. So learn to speak up and don't be afraid, all right? And check out the Father State, check out my radio and TV show, and thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for coming.